haunted. In the quiet hours before sunrise in February 2026, Nancy Guthrie sat at the small wooden desk that had stood in her Tucson home for decades. The Catalina foothills were still dark, the desert air cool and hushed. At 84, her hands trembled slightly as she began to write. This was not a routine note or a reminder tucked between bills. It was something more intimate. A reflection shaped by a lifetime of faith, motherhood, resilience, and private doubt. Addressed to her youngest daughter, Savannah Guthrie, the letter carried a tenderness rarely spoken aloud. She began simply, admitting that she had often worn strength like armor. In the lines that followed, she confessed something deeply human. She had not always felt as unbreakable as she appeared. The words were careful, deliberate, and honest, in a way only late-night courage allows. A community waiting for answers. Days later, when Nancy's unexpected disappearance drew national attention, that letter quietly became something more. What began as a missing person report in Tucson quickly grew into a large search effort supported by local authorities and federal investigators. Community members gathered in prayer and solidarity, lighting candles and holding on to hope. Savannah, flanked by her siblings, shared heartfelt public appeals, asking for compassion and information. The family's faith community, including gatherings at St. Philip's in the Hills Episcopal Church, offered steady support. Through it all, the focus remained on finding Nancy safely. When authorities later confirmed her passing, sorrow spread far beyond Arizona. Yet amid the grief, the discovery of her handwritten letter offered a different kind of presence. Her own voice, preserved in ink. Kentucky roots and early values. Nancy Ellen Long was born on January 27, 1942, in Fort Wright, Kentucky, during a time when the world felt uncertain, but families leaned on tradition and faith. Raised in a close-knit Catholic household, she grew up surrounded by church bells, potluck dinners, and the steady rhythms of Midwestern life. Education and service were emphasized from an early age. At Notre Dame Academy, she developed both discipline and a love of storytelling. Friends remembered her bright blue eyes and quick wit, but also her focus and compassion. She carried those qualities forward to the University of Kentucky, where she studied journalism. There, she learned that words could bridge divides, illuminate quiet truths, and give dignity to everyday lives. Love, marriage, and new horizons. It was during her university years that Nancy met Charles Guthrie, a mining engineering student with a calm confidence that complemented her energy. Their courtship began with a basketball game and grew into a partnership rooted in faith and shared ambition. They married in December 1963, beginning a life that would take them across states and even overseas. In 1971, while living in Melbourne, Australia, they welcomed their youngest child, Savannah. 2 years later, the family settled in Tucson, Arizona, drawn by opportunity and the promise of desert sunshine. Their burnt adobe home in the Catalina foothills became a place of laughter, faith, and steady routine. Nancy poured herself into motherhood, community service, and church life, shaping a home grounded in love and discipline. Strength forged through loss. Tragedy struck in 1988 when Charles passed away unexpectedly, leaving Nancy widowed at 46 with 3 teenagers. The loss altered the family's path, but Nancy responded with determined grace. She returned to work in public relations at the University of Arizona, balancing professional demands with the emotional needs of her children. Colleagues admired her composure and empathy. At home, she reinforced lessons of perseverance and faith. Savannah has often spoken about how those years defined her own understanding of resilience. Nancy did not deny grief, but she carried it quietly, focusing on stability and opportunity for her children. Through discipline and devotion, She guided her family into adulthood, celebrating their milestones while rarely drawing attention to her own sacrifices. A mother's pride and quiet doubts. As Savannah's journalism career flourished, eventually leading her to co-anchor Today on NBC News, Nancy watched with immense pride. She attended celebrations, cherished time with grandchildren, and remained a steady source of encouragement. Yet in her letter, she acknowledged something she had seldom shared. Beneath her outward confidence lived moments of self-questioning. She wrote about the pressures of single motherhood, the worry of finances after her husband's death, and the quiet fear that she might not have done enough. She admitted that she sometimes mistook endurance for emotional healing. These reflections did not diminish her strength. They revealed its complexity. Even the most steadfast parents carry uncertainties they rarely voice. Faith, family, and final reflections. In her later years, Nancy found joy in grandmotherhood and spiritual community. Though health challenges limited her mobility, her faith remained constant. Her letter expressed gratitude for simple blessings: laughter at the dinner table, handwritten notes from grandchildren, and long conversations with Savannah about life and work. She emphasized kindness over recognition, integrity over reputation. If the letter were ever read aloud, she wrote, she hoped to be remembered as genuine and faithful. She wanted her children to know that love was never conditional, even if she had sometimes struggled to express it fully. Those lines became especially meaningful after her passing, offering reassurance rather than regret. A legacy beyond headlines. Nancy's life stretched from Kentucky hills to Arizona sunsets, marked by devotion to family and community. While public attention briefly focused on the circumstances of her disappearance, her true legacy lies elsewhere. In the resilience she modeled, the faith she nurtured, and the honesty she ultimately embraced. Savannah's public tribute honored not only her mother's strength, but her vulnerability as well. The letter she left behind did not serve as a dramatic farewell. Instead, it became a testament to the quiet truth that strength and doubt often coexist. Nancy's story endures not because of headlines, but because of the lives she shaped. Through her words and example, she reminded her family, and anyone listening, that courage includes the willingness to be seen fully, imperfections and all.